25 most tragic deaths of black celebrities in Hollywood. What if the brightest black legends we celebrate today paid the ultimate price behind the spotlight? Fame promised glory, but for many it delivered pain, pressure, and tragic endings no one wants to talk about. From music icons to cultural heroes, their lives were shaped by talent and shattered by forces far darker than applause. Tonight, Black Excellence Legends pulls back the curtain to reveal the truth behind these heartbreaking losses. This is not gossip. This is history, emotion, and legacy colliding. Watch closely, listen deeply, and ask yourself, were these tragedies inevitable, or could they have been prevented? Share your thoughts in the comments and join the conversation. Lisa "Left Eye" Lopez. As a founding member of TLC, the best-selling female group in American history, Lisa helped shape the sound of the 1990s. With albums like Crazy Sexy Cool and Fan Mail, TLC sold over 65 million records worldwide, dominating charts with songs such as Waterfalls, No Scrubs, and Creep. Lisa's sharp rap verses, unconventional fashion, and fearless personality made her the group's most unpredictable force. Behind the success, however, Lisa struggled deeply. Her turbulent relationship with NFL player Andre Rison culminated in a 1994 incident in which she set fire to his mansion, an act that followed years of emotional volatility and self-conflict. Lisa later took responsibility, served probation, and openly spoke about her need for healing rather than denial. Unlike many stars, she never hid her flaws. She confronted them publicly. In the early 2000s, Lisa withdrew from mainstream fame to search for spiritual balance. She traveled extensively, eventually settling for a period in Honduras, where she documented her journey towards self-discovery. Friends described her as optimistic, reflective, and excited about a creative rebirth, including plans for a solo album and renewed collaboration with TLC. On April 25, 2002, at just 30 years old, Lisa's life ended in a sudden car accident in Honduras. She was not wearing a seatbelt when the SUV crashed, and she was fatally injured. The tragedy was devastating not only because of her youth, but because she appeared to be entering a calmer, more purposeful chapter of her life. Lisa "Left Eye" Lopez left behind more than hit records. She left a legacy of honesty, creativity, and emotional courage. Her death remains one of the most heartbreaking losses in modern music, proof that fame does not shield fragile souls, and that some stars burn brightest just before they disappear. Aaliyah. Aaliyah was not simply a rising star. She was already a cultural force whose quiet confidence reshaped modern R&B before her life was cut short. From the moment she debuted in the mid-1990s, her artistry stood apart. Unlike many young performers of her era, Aaliyah never relied on vocal excess or shock value. Instead, her strength lay in restraint, atmosphere, and emotional control. Albums like One in a Million introduced a futuristic sound that influenced an entire generation, while her smooth delivery made vulnerability feel powerful rather than fragile. By the early 2000s, Aaliyah had entered a new phase of her career. Her self-titled album, Aaliyah, marked artistic independence, and her acting roles signaled long-term crossover success. She was no longer just adapting to the industry, she was shaping her own path. Those closest to her described a woman who was focused, ambitious, and finally in control of her destiny. On August 25, 2001, that momentum was shattered. After filming the Rock the Boat music video in the Bahamas, Aaliyah boarded a small aircraft for what should have been a short flight home. The plane was dangerously overloaded, and the pilot lacked proper certification. Within moments of takeoff, the aircraft lost control and crashed, killing everyone on board. Aaliyah was only 22 years old. The investigation confirmed negligence, transforming grief into outrage. Fans around the world struggled to process how such a preventable tragedy could end the life of someone so careful in her personal and professional choices. What makes Aaliyah's death especially tragic is not only the violence of the accident, but the timing. She had reached a rare balance between youth and maturity, fame and self-awareness. Her loss froze her image in time, leaving behind an unfinished story that still echoes through music, fashion, and film. Aaliyah did not fade away. She was taken at the moment she was becoming unstoppable. Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant lived his life with an intensity that defined greatness, discipline, and obsession with improvement. From the moment he entered the NBA at just 17 years old, Kobe was driven by a singular mission: to master his craft completely. Over 2 decades with the Los Angeles Lakers, he built a legacy that few athletes in any sport have matched. 5 championships, countless clutch moments, and a reputation as one of the most relentless competitors ever to play the game. Yet Kobe's story did not end when he retired from basketball. In many ways, it was just beginning. After leaving the NBA, he transitioned into storytelling, business, and mentorship. Winning an Academy Award for Dear Basketball proved that his creativity extended far beyond the court. More importantly, he became deeply invested in youth sports, especially women's basketball, where he saw the future of the game. On January 26, 2020, Kobe boarded a helicopter with his daughter Gianna and 7 others to attend a youth tournament. Thick fog blanketed the skies over Calabasas, California. Despite dangerous conditions, the flight continued. Moments later, the helicopter crashed into a hillside at high speed, killing everyone on board instantly. Kobe was 41 years old. The shock was immediate and global. For many, his death felt personal, as if a constant presence in their lives had suddenly vanished. He was not remembered only as an athlete, but as a symbol of perseverance and transformation. What makes Kobe Bryant's death especially painful is the sense of interruption. He was no longer chasing titles. He was building legacies through others. His loss reminded the world that even the most disciplined lives are vulnerable to circumstances beyond control. Kobe's journey ended abruptly, but his philosophy of purpose, focus, and growth continues to inspire millions. Gianna Gigi Bryant. Gianna Gigi Bryant represented possibility, the future that had not yet been written. From a young age, she displayed a natural understanding of basketball that went far beyond simple talent. Raised in an environment where the game was studied as much as it was played, Gianna absorbed strategy, movement, and decision-making with remarkable clarity. Trained closely by her father, Gianna did not rely on his fame. She earned respect through work ethic, competitiveness, and leadership. Coaches and teammates described her as fearless, vocal, and focused. She dreamed of playing in the WNBA and often spoke about helping elevate women's basketball to new levels. To Kobe, she was proof that the game's future was bright. On the morning of January 26, 2020, Gianna joined her father on the helicopter ride to a tournament she was scheduled to play in. The same crash that ended Kobe's life also took hers. She was only 13 years old. Gianna's death struck the world differently. Unlike legends whose careers were complete, her story existed mostly in potential. She symbolized what could have been: a generation inspired, records yet to be broken, leadership yet to be shown. Her passing became a moment of collective mourning, not just for who she was, but for who she would never have the chance to become. Gianna Bryant left no professional resume, but her impact was profound. She became a reminder of how fragile dreams can be and how deeply hope can resonate even when it is brief. Her legacy lives on as a symbol of youth, ambition, and the cruel unpredictability of fate. Rasul Butler. Rasul Butler was a professional athlete whose life embodied both perseverance and quiet stability, qualities that made his sudden death especially heartbreaking. Entering the NBA in 2002, Butler carved out a solid career as a reliable three-point shooter and respected teammate. Over more than a decade in the league, he played for multiple teams, including the Miami Heat, Los Angeles Clippers, and San Antonio Spurs. While he was never a headline superstar, Rasul earned something equally valuable: trust. Coaches relied on him, teammates respected him, and fans admired his professionalism. Off the court, Butler was known as calm, grounded, and deeply devoted to family. His relationship with singer Leah LaBelle symbolized a rare balance between sports and entertainment, two demanding worlds, often hostile to personal peace. Friends described Rasul as a stabilizing presence, someone who valued routine, responsibility, and long-term planning after retirement from basketball. On the night of January 31st, 2018, that sense of control vanished. Rasul and Leah were driving through Los Angeles when their vehicle lost control at high speed and crashed into a concrete barrier. The impact was catastrophic. Both were killed instantly. Later, toxicology reports confirmed that Rasul had alcohol and drugs in his system, a revelation that shocked those who knew him as cautious and disciplined. What makes Rasul Butler's death particularly tragic is its contrast. A man who had survived the physical toll of professional sports, avoided major scandals, and transitioned into post-NBA life was taken not by illness or age, but by a single night's mistake. His death became a reminder that even steady lives can unravel in seconds. Rasul Butler was 38 years old. His legacy is not one of controversy, but of quiet respect. An athlete who did things the right way, only to be lost in a moment that overshadowed years of discipline and growth. Leah LaBelle. Leah LaBelle was a voice still searching for its full moment, a talent on the verge of transformation when fate intervened. First gaining national attention on American Idol, Leah impressed audiences with her powerful vocals, emotional control, and raw authenticity. Though she did not win the competition, she gained something equally important: visibility and belief from the industry. In the years following American Idol, Leah chose patience over speed. She continued refining her sound, collaborating behind the scenes, and developing a more mature artistic identity. Those close to her described a woman deeply committed to her craft, unwilling to rush success at the expense of longevity. She balanced ambition with humility, a rare combination in an industry built on instant fame. Leah's personal life brought her into the public eye again when she married former NBA player Rasul Butler. Their relationship was seen as supportive and grounded, built on shared values rather than spectacle. Friends often noted that Leah found emotional security in the relationship, while Rasul admired her discipline and artistic integrity. On January 31st, 2018, Leah's life ended alongside Rasul's in a violent car crash in Los Angeles. She was just 31 years old. The suddenness of her death stunned fans who believed her breakthrough moment was still ahead. Unlike stars whose legacies were complete, Leah's story remained largely unwritten. What makes Leah LaBelle's death uniquely tragic is the silence it left behind. She was not burned out, disgraced, or fading. She was building. Her loss reminds us that talent does not always receive time to bloom, and that some voices disappear before the world truly hears them. Leah LaBelle is remembered not for chart positions, but for promise. In an industry obsessed with outcomes, her story stands as a reminder that potential itself can be a legacy. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke was more than the father of soul. He was a visionary whose death remains one of the most debated tragedies in music history. Rising from gospel roots to mainstream success, Sam Cooke redefined what Black artists could achieve in America. With hits like You Send Me and A Change Is Gonna Come, he combined commercial appeal with emotional depth, bridging sacred and secular worlds in a way few had dared before. Beyond music, Sam Cooke was a businessman and civil rights advocate. He founded his own record label and publishing company, demanding ownership at a time when Black artists were routinely exploited. His influence extended beyond charts, shaping the future of artist independence. On December 11, 1964, Sam Cooke's life ended abruptly in a Los Angeles motel. He was shot by the motel manager, who claimed self-defense. Authorities ruled the death a justifiable homicide, but doubts emerged almost immediately. Inconsistencies, missing details, and the absence of a thorough public investigation fueled decades of speculation. What complicates Sam Cooke's death is not sensationalism, but context. He was at the height of his power, financially, creatively, and politically. He had begun challenging systemic inequality openly, using his platform to demand change. Many question whether the official narrative fully captured the truth of that night. Sam Cooke was only 33 years old. His death robbed the civil rights movement and the music world of a voice uniquely capable of uniting artistry with activism. Unlike accidents or illnesses, his passing carries an enduring sense of unfinished justice. Sam Cooke's legacy is immortal, but his death remains unresolved in the public conscience. He did not simply die young. He was silenced at a moment when his influence was becoming dangerous to the status quo. Otis Redding. Otis Redding was a once-in-a-generation soul singer whose voice carried both raw pain and deep tenderness, making his sudden death one of the most devastating losses in music history. Emerging from Macon, Georgia, Otis rose rapidly in the mid-1960s with a sound rooted in Southern soul, gospel emotion, and unfiltered humanity. Songs like Try a Little Tenderness, These Arms of Mine, and Respect turned him into a powerhouse performer whose live shows were described as overwhelming and unforgettable. By 1967, Otis Redding stood at the peak of his career. He had just delivered a triumphant performance at the Monterey Pop Festival, introducing his music to a broader, younger audience. Industry insiders believed he was on the verge of becoming a global superstar, capable of bridging soul, rock, and pop audiences in ways few Black artists had achieved at the time. On December 10, 1967, tragedy struck. Otis boarded a small Beechcraft plane with members of his band en route to a performance in Wisconsin. As the aircraft approached Madison, it encountered severe weather conditions. Moments later, the plane crashed into Lake Monona, plunging into icy waters. Otis Redding and 6 others were killed instantly. Only one person survived. Otis was just 26 years old. The shock of his death reverberated throughout the music world. Adding to the heartbreak, just days earlier he had recorded Sittin' On the Dock of the Bay, a song that reflected introspection and quiet vulnerability unlike anything he had released before. The track was released posthumously and became his first #1 hit. Otis Redding's tragedy lies not only in the violence of the accident, but in the sense of evolution that was abruptly halted. He was beginning to explore new emotional territory, signaling a deeper artistic maturity. His death froze his legacy and brilliance, leaving behind a haunting question of what might have been. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye's death remains one of the most painful and unsettling tragedies in music history because it occurred not in public chaos, but inside the walls of his own home. Known as the Prince of Motown, Marvin Gaye transformed soul music by infusing it with social consciousness, intimacy, and vulnerability. Albums like What's Going On and Let's Get It On were not just commercially successful, they reshaped how artists expressed personal and political truth. Despite his artistic brilliance, Marvin's private life was marked by profound emotional struggle. Years of conflict with his father, Marvin Gaye Sr., combined with financial pressure, substance abuse, and mental health challenges, created an environment of constant tension. Those close to him described a man torn between spiritual longing and inner torment. On April 1, 1984, just one day before his 45th birthday, a heated argument erupted between Marvin and his father at their Los Angeles home. What began as a family dispute escalated into irreversible violence. Marvin Gaye Sr. retrieved a gun and shot his son, killing him instantly. Marvin Gaye was 44 years old. The shock was immeasurable. The idea that one of the most expressive voices of love and peace could be silenced by family conflicts shook the world. His death forced fans to confront the painful truth that artistic genius does not protect against personal collapse. Marvin's tragedy is deeply symbolic. He spent his career exploring themes of healing, unity, and emotional honesty, yet was unable to escape the wounds closest to him. His passing was not only the loss of a musician, but the destruction of a soul who carried too much pain alone. Marvin Gaye's legacy endures as both inspiration and warning, a reminder that emotional wounds left untreated can be as deadly as any external threat. Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur's death marked the violent end of one of the most influential and complex voices in modern music. More than a rapper, Tupac was a poet, actor, and social commentator who gave voice to anger, hope, injustice, and vulnerability with rare intensity. His music reflected lived reality, not fantasy, which made his rise meteoric and his fall deeply tragic. Born into a family shaped by political activism, Tupac carried a heightened awareness of inequality from an early age. As his career accelerated in the early 1990s, he became both celebrated and polarizing. His success coincided with escalating violence in the hip-hop industry, particularly during the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. His association with Death Row Records and its leadership placed him dangerously close to street politics he could not fully control. On the night of September 7, 1996, Tupac was riding in a car through Las Vegas after attending a boxing match. While stopped at a traffic light, another vehicle pulled alongside. Gunfire erupted. Tupac was struck multiple times and rushed to the hospital. Despite efforts to save him, he died 6 days later on September 13, 1996. Tupac was only 25 years old. His death shocked the world and left behind endless questions. Investigations failed to produce convictions, and conspiracy theories flourished, adding to the myth surrounding his life and death. What makes Tupac's death especially tragic is how close he seemed to transformation. In his final months, he spoke openly about growth, reconciliation, and changing direction. His artistic output during that period was prolific, suggesting a future of even greater depth and influence. Tupac Shakur did not die quietly. He died at the intersection of art, conflict, and unresolved violence. His legacy remains immortal, not because of how he died, but because of how fiercely he lived and spoke truths others feared to voice. The Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls. The Notorious B.I.G., born Christopher Wallace, was the defining voice of East Coast hip-hop in the 1990s, a storyteller whose presence felt larger than life even before fame found him. Raised in Brooklyn, Biggie transformed harsh realities into vivid narratives, blending sharp wit, vulnerability, and commanding flow. His debut album, Ready to Die, was not just a commercial success. It re-established New York as the center of hip-hop at a time when the genre was fractured by regional rivalry. Biggie's rise was rapid and intense. With songs like Juicy and Big Papa, he balanced street realism with mainstream appeal, becoming both a cultural icon and a symbol of the East Coast-West Coast divide. Yet that success came with constant pressure. The feuds surrounding the hip-hop industry escalated beyond music, pulling artists into an atmosphere of paranoia, public threats, and real danger. On March 9, 1997, after attending a music industry event in Los Angeles, Biggie was riding in an SUV when another vehicle pulled alongside at a stoplight. Gunshots rang out in the dark. Biggie was struck multiple times and later pronounced dead at the hospital. He was only 24 years old. What deepened the tragedy was the timing. Just weeks later, his second album, Life After Death, was released, debuting at #1 and cementing his legacy. The album revealed artistic growth, introspection, and ambition beyond conflict, suggesting a future that would have transcended rivalry. Biggie's murder remains unsolved, leaving unanswered questions that continue to haunt music history. His death was not only the loss of a rapper, but the silencing of a voice that had begun to mature beyond survival stories into legacy building. The notorious B.I.G. did not simply represent an era, he was shaping its next chapter when violence ended his story. Nipsey Hussle was not just a rapper. He was a blueprint for transformation rooted in community empowerment. Born Ermias Askedum, Nipsey grew up in South Los Angeles, surrounded by gang culture, poverty, and limited opportunity. Unlike many who escaped and never looked back, Nipsey returned with intention. His music reflected patience, discipline, and long-term thinking rather than quick fame. Nipsey's career developed steadily rather than explosively. He rejected traditional industry shortcuts, choosing independence and ownership. His album Victory Lap symbolized perseverance, earning critical acclaim and Grammy recognition after more than a decade of grinding. More importantly, Nipsey invested in real estate, technology, and education within his neighborhood, turning words into action. On March 31, 2019, Nipsey was standing outside his Marathon clothing store in South Los Angeles, a space he built as both a business and a community hub. A man he knew approached him. Moments later, gunfire shattered the afternoon. Nipsey was fatally shot and pronounced dead at the hospital. He was 33 years old. The shock was immediate and deeply personal for many. Nipsey was not chasing controversy or excess. He was focused on uplift and reform. His death felt like a cruel interruption of progress. What made the loss especially painful was the symbolism. A man investing in peace and growth, killed in the very place he sought to protect. Nipsey Hussle's legacy extends far beyond music. He represented a new form of leadership, one built on economic literacy, self-determination, and responsibility to community. His death underscored the fragility of change in environments still haunted by violence. Nipsey did not die chasing fame. He died building a future. Phyllis Hyman possessed one of the most distinctive voices in soul music. A rich contralto that conveyed elegance, longing, and quiet heartbreak. Her music spoke not through volume, but through depth, offering emotional honesty that resonated with listeners who felt unseen. Songs like You Know How to Love Me and Living All Alone made her a staple in R&B, jazz, and Broadway. Despite professional success, Phyllis lived with profound emotional struggle. She battled depression for years, a condition often hidden behind polished performances and public admiration. Friends described her as sensitive and introspective, someone who carried expectations heavily. The music industry praised her talent, but rarely addressed the mental toll of constant pressure and isolation. In the early 1990s, Phyllis's career slowed, amplifying feelings of uncertainty and self-doubt. She continued performing, but the weight of unmet expectations and personal pain grew heavier. On June 30, 1995, Phyllis Hyman was found dead in her apartment from an intentional overdose. She was 45 years old. Her death shocked fans and exposed a painful truth. Success does not shield individuals from inner suffering. Phyllis left behind a note expressing exhaustion and emotional despair, highlighting how deeply loneliness had affected her despite public acclaim. Phyllis Hyman's tragedy lies not in scandal or violence, but in silence. Her struggle with mental health unfolded largely out of sight, reminding the world that emotional pain can be invisible, even in celebrated lives. Her voice remains timeless, filled with vulnerability and strength, a reminder that compassion and understanding are as essential as applause. Donny Hathaway was a musical genius whose brilliance was inseparable from a lifelong struggle with mental illness, making his death one of the most tragic losses in soul music history. Emerging in the late 1960s, Donny quickly distinguished himself not only as a powerful vocalist, but also as a gifted arranger, pianist, and producer. Songs such as A Song for You, The Ghetto, and Someday We'll All Be Free revealed a depth of emotion and social awareness that few artists could match. Despite his success, Donnie lived with schizophrenia, a condition that increasingly shaped his daily life. At a time when mental health awareness was limited and stigma was widespread, treatment options were inconsistent and often ineffective. Friends and collaborators noticed dramatic shifts in his behavior, periods of clarity and inspiration, followed by episodes of paranoia and fear. These struggles did not diminish his talent, but they made stability elusive. In the late 1970s, Donnie continued to perform and record, even as his condition worsened. Those close to him described a man torn between artistic brilliance and overwhelming inner turmoil. On January 13, 1979, while staying at the Essex House Hotel in New York City, Donnie's battle reached a devastating end. He fell from the 15th floor of the hotel, dying instantly. Donnie Hathaway was 33 years old. His death shocked the music world and forced uncomfortable conversations about mental health, especially among artists whose pain is often masked by success. Unlike accidents or violence, his passing reflected an internal war that had gone largely untreated. What makes Donnie Hathaway's death especially tragic is the clarity of his message. "Someday we'll all be free" now sounds less like a song and more like a personal plea for peace. His legacy endures as both inspiration and warning, a reminder that artistic genius requires compassion, care, and understanding to survive. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was a revolutionary force whose influence on music transcended genre, race, and generation. Born in Seattle, Hendrix redefined the electric guitar, transforming it into an expressive, almost vocal instrument. Albums like Are You Experienced and Electric Ladyland changed the landscape of rock music forever, while his performances at Monterey Pop Festival and Woodstock became legendary moments in cultural history. Behind the innovation, however, Jimi lived a life of intense pressure. Fame arrived rapidly and without preparation, thrusting him into a non-stop cycle of touring, recording, and public expectation. Those close to him noted his exhaustion and growing dependence on substances to cope with insomnia, anxiety, and emotional isolation. Despite his public image as a fearless performer, Hendrix was deeply sensitive and often overwhelmed. On September 18, 1970, Jimi Hendrix was found unresponsive in a London apartment. He had consumed a combination of barbiturates and alcohol, leading to fatal asphyxiation. Official reports ruled his death accidental. He was 27 years old, becoming one of the most prominent members of the so-called 27 Club. Jimi's death stunned the world. At the time, he was experimenting with new musical directions and planning projects that suggested continued evolution beyond rock stardom. His loss felt abrupt, almost unreal, as though the future had been forcibly erased. The tragedy of Jimi Hendrix lies not only in his youth, but in the weight of expectation placed upon him. He was asked to be a symbol, a pioneer, and a spectacle all at once. His death exposed the dangers of unchecked pressure in an industry that often celebrates brilliance without protecting the human being behind it. Hendrix's legacy remains eternal, but his ending remains a cautionary tale. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston was one of the most gifted vocalists in music history, a once-in-a-generation talent whose voice defined perfection. From her early hits like Saving All My Love for You to global anthems such as I Will Always Love You, Whitney set records that remain unmatched. She sold over 200 million records worldwide, becoming the most awarded female artist of her era. Yet beneath the flawless sound lived a woman struggling with personal demons. Whitney's rise to fame was swift and relentless, leaving little room for emotional grounding. Her marriage to Bobby Brown and increasing substance abuse became tabloid fixation, often overshadowing her artistry. Addiction gradually eroded her health, confidence, and professional stability. On February 11, 2012, Whitney Houston was found unresponsive in a bathtub at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. Investigations later concluded that her death was caused by heart disease and drowning, with cocaine use as a contributing factor. She was 48 years old. Whitney's death was not sudden to those who had watched her decline, but it was still devastating. The world lost not just a singer, but a symbol of vocal excellence and cultural impact. Her passing forced a reevaluation of how fame, addiction, and mental health intersect. What makes Whitney Houston's story uniquely tragic is the contrast between her public image and private suffering. Her voice suggested strength and control, while her life revealed vulnerability and pain. Whitney did not fail. She was overwhelmed by forces larger than talent alone could conquer. Her legacy endures through timeless music and an enduring lesson. Even the most extraordinary gifts require care, support, and protection. Whitney Houston's voice will never fade, but her story remains a sobering reminder of fame's hidden cost. Bobbi Kristina Brown. Bobbi Kristina Brown lived her life under a shadow far heavier than fame, the shadow of inherited tragedy. As the only daughter of Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown, she grew up surrounded by music, cameras, and enormous public expectation. From childhood, Bobbi Kristina was seen as a symbol of legacy, a young girl many believed would one day continue her mother's unmatched musical brilliance. However, life after Whitney Houston's death in 2012 marked a devastating turning point. Bobbi Kristina struggled deeply with grief, instability, and identity. Friends and family later described her as emotionally fragile, unable to escape the psychological weight of losing her mother in such a public and haunting way. The media attention that followed only intensified her isolation, turning personal pain into public spectacle. On January 31, 2015, Bobbi Kristina was found unconscious in a bathtub in her home, an image that instantly drew chilling parallels to her mother's death 3 years earlier. She was rushed to the hospital and placed in a medically induced coma. Despite months of intensive care, her condition never improved. After nearly 6 months, Bobbi Kristina Brown passed away on July 26, 2015, at just 22 years old. Her death was ruled the result of lobar pneumonia caused by prolonged immersion, with contributing factors related to substance use. The tragedy felt cyclical, almost unbearable in its similarity, reinforcing the sense that trauma had repeated itself within the same family. What makes Bobbi Kristina's death uniquely tragic is not only her youth, but the absence of agency in her story. She never had the chance to define herself outside of her parents' fame or mistakes. Her life became a painful reminder that legacy can be a burden, and that grief, when left unresolved, can quietly destroy even those surrounded by love and resources. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was not just a global superstar, he was a cultural phenomenon whose influence reshaped music, dance, and entertainment on an unprecedented scale. From his childhood with the Jackson 5 to his solo dominance with albums like Thriller, Bad, and Dangerous, Michael became the most recognizable artist on the planet. Thriller alone sold over 70 million copies, making it the best-selling album in history. Yet behind the spectacle lived a man under constant pressure. Years of relentless touring, public scrutiny, legal battles, and chronic physical pain took a severe toll on Michael's health. By the late 2000s, he suffered from insomnia so extreme that he required medical assistance simply to sleep. As he prepared for his highly anticipated This Is It comeback tour in 2009, that dependency became fatal. On June 25, 2009, Michael Jackson was found unresponsive in his Los Angeles home. His personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, had administered propofol, a powerful anesthetic not intended for home use, in an attempt to help him sleep. Michael went into cardiac arrest and could not be revived. He was 50 years old. The news sent shockwaves across the globe. Vigils erupted in cities worldwide as fans mourned the loss of a man whose music had defined generations. In 2011, Dr. Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter, confirming that Michael's death was not simply accidental, but the result of dangerous medical negligence. Michael Jackson's tragedy lies in contradiction. He achieved everything fame could offer, yet was profoundly vulnerable behind closed doors. His death exposed the dark cost of celebrity, where performance is prioritized over well-being, and warning signs are ignored in favor of profit. Michael did not just die as an artist. He died as a human being exhausted by expectation. His legacy remains unmatched, but his final chapter serves as a sobering reminder that even the brightest icons require protection, rest, and care. Prince. Prince was a creative force without comparison, a musician who refused boundaries and redefined artistic freedom. From Purple Rain to Sign of the Times, Prince controlled every aspect of his work, from songwriting and production to performance and image. He was not merely successful, he was autonomous, a rare achievement in an industry built on control. Behind that independence, however, Prince lived with chronic physical pain. Years of explosive stage performances took a toll on his body, particularly his hips. He underwent surgery but avoided public discussion of his condition, maintaining an image of strength and mystery. As the pain intensified, Prince began using prescription painkillers, a decision that quietly led him down a dangerous path. On April 21, 2016, Prince was found unresponsive at Paisley Park, his private estate and creative sanctuary. An autopsy later revealed that he died from an accidental overdose of fentanyl, a powerful synthetic opioid. He was 57 years old. The revelation stunned fans. Prince had long spoken against substance abuse and carefully guarded his private life. Few knew the extent of his suffering or dependency. His death highlighted the hidden crisis of prescription opioid misuse, even among those who appeared disciplined and in control. What makes Prince's death especially tragic is its irony. A man who fought relentlessly for ownership, autonomy, and artistic freedom ultimately lost control to physical pain and medication. His silence, once a source of mystique, became a vulnerability. Prince's legacy remains immortal. His music continues to inspire fearless creativity. Yet his death stands as a stark reminder that independence does not eliminate human fragility, and that even icons who seem untouchable can suffer quietly until it is too late. Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman's death shook the world not because it was sudden, but because it was silent. To millions, he was the embodiment of strength, an actor whose presence carried dignity, restraint, and quiet power. Through roles like Jackie Robinson in 42, James Brown in Get On Up, and most memorably King T'Challa in Black Panther, Chadwick became a symbol of Black excellence and resilience on a global scale. What the world did not know was that Chadwick had been battling stage 3 colon cancer since 2016, later progressing to stage 4. While undergoing surgeries and chemotherapy, he continued to work relentlessly, filming demanding roles without public acknowledgement of his illness. There were no press conferences, no public appeals for sympathy. Instead, he chose privacy, discipline, and purpose. Between treatments, Chadwick delivered some of the most physically and emotionally demanding performances of his career. Black Panther alone became a cultural phenomenon, earning over $1 billion, $3 billion worldwide, and inspiring pride across generations. To many, Chadwick was not just an actor. He was a hero whose very existence challenged stereotypes and expanded representation. On August 28, 2020, Chadwick Boseman passed away at his home, surrounded by his family. He was 43 years old. The announcement stunned fans and colleagues alike. Social media flooded with disbelief, admiration, and sorrow as people realized the magnitude of what he had endured in silence. Chadwick Boseman's tragedy lies in contrast. He gave the world hope while privately fighting for his life. His death redefined heroism, not as invincibility, but as grace under suffering. He did not seek attention for his pain, yet his legacy became even more powerful because of it. Chadwick Boseman will be remembered not only for the characters he portrayed, but for the quiet strength with which he lived and died. Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac was a comedian whose voice felt like family, loud, honest, unapologetic, and deeply human. Rising from Chicago's South Side, Bernie transformed hardship into humor, using laughter as both shield and weapon. Through the Bernie Mac Show, stand-up specials in films like Ocean's 11 and Mr. 3000, he became one of the most recognizable comedic figures of his generation. Behind the humor, however, Bernie lived with a chronic illness that shaped his life more than many fans realized. He suffered from sarcoidosis, an inflammatory disease that affects the lungs and other organs. Diagnosed years before his death, Bernie endured breathing difficulties, fatigue, and recurring infections, often while continuing to work at a demanding pace. Despite his condition, Bernie refused to let illness define him. He continued performing, filming, and touring, bringing joy to audiences while privately managing a body that was slowly wearing down. Friends described him as resilient, stubbornly optimistic, and deeply committed to his craft. In August 2008, Bernie Mac was hospitalized in Chicago with pneumonia. His condition worsened rapidly, leading to respiratory failure and complications related to sarcoidosis. On August 9, 2008, Bernie Mac passed away at 50 years old. The reaction was immediate and emotional. Fans mourned not just a comedian, but a voice that felt familiar and comforting. Bernie's death highlighted a painful truth. Laughter does not mean the absence of pain. His illness, often misunderstood and underestimated, ultimately claimed his life far too early. Bernie Mac's tragedy is rooted in perseverance. He pushed forward, determined to live fully despite physical limitations. His legacy lives on in the joy he created, but his passing reminds us that even those who make us laugh the hardest may be fighting battles we never see. Heavy D, born Dwight Arrington Myers, was a trailblazer who brought joy, charisma, and positivity to hip-hop at a time when the genre was rapidly evolving. As the leader of Heavy D and the Boys, he helped redefine rap in the late 1980s and early 1990s, blending upbeat energy with mainstream appeal. Hits like Now That We Found Love and Is It Good to You made him a household name. Unlike many of his peers, Heavy D was known for warmth rather than aggression. His smile, humor, and approachability set him apart, making him a bridge between hip-hop, R&B, and pop audiences. Beyond music, he expanded into acting and producing, becoming a respected figure across entertainment industries. On November 8, 2011, tragedy struck unexpectedly. After returning from a long international flight, Heavy D collapsed at his home. He was rushed to the hospital but could not be saved. Medical examiners later determined that he died from a pulmonary embolism, likely linked to deep vein thrombosis caused by prolonged air travel. Heavy D was only 44 years old. His death shocked fans because there had been no visible warning signs. He was active, working, and seemingly healthy. The suddenness of his passing underscored how fragile life can be, even for those who appear strong and full of energy. Heavy D's tragedy lies in its unpredictability. There was no long decline, no public struggle, just a life full of promise abruptly cut short. His death raised awareness about hidden health risks and reminded the world that silent conditions can be just as deadly as visible ones. Heavy D is remembered not for darkness, but for light. His music still moves crowds, and his legacy endures as a symbol of positivity, unity, and joy in hip-hop history. James Brown. James Brown was more than a musician. He was a force of nature who shaped the sound, spirit, and identity of modern black music. Known worldwide as the godfather of soul, James Brown laid the foundation for funk, influencing generations of artists across soul, R&B, hip-hop, and pop. Songs like I Got You, I Feel Good, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, and Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud were not just hits, they were declarations of power, pride, and rhythm. Behind his electrifying performances, however, James Brown lived a life marked by turbulence. His childhood was defined by poverty, abandonment, and violence, scars that followed him into adulthood. Fame brought success, but it did not erase anger, control issues, or long battles with substance abuse. His personal life was often chaotic, and his relationships strained by his intensity. In his later years, James Brown's health steadily declined. He suffered from heart problems, diabetes, and repeated bouts of pneumonia. Despite his physical deterioration, he remained determined to perform, often pushing his body beyond its limits. On December 25, 2006, James Brown was hospitalized in Atlanta with severe pneumonia. Within hours, his condition worsened. James Brown died that Christmas morning at 73 years old. The news sent shockwaves through the music world. Fans mourned not only a legendary performer, but a cultural architect whose rhythms shaped entire genres. His death marked the end of an era, closing the chapter on a man whose influence could be heard in everything from hip-hop beats to modern pop choreography. James Brown's tragedy lies in contrast. He gave the world energy, movement, and pride, yet lived much of his life battling inner demons and physical exhaustion. He burned intensely, refusing to slow down, even when his body demanded rest. His legacy is immortal, but his ending reminds us that relentless drive, when unchecked, can come at a devastating cost. Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin, the undisputed queen of soul, possessed a voice that carried unmatched power, emotion, and authority. From gospel roots in Detroit to global superstardom, Aretha transformed music into a vehicle for truth and resilience. Songs like Respect, Natural Woman, and Chain of Fools became timeless anthems, cementing her place as one of the greatest vocalists in history. Over a career spanning more than 6 decades, Aretha won 18 Grammy Awards, sold over 75 million records, and became a symbol of Black excellence and female empowerment. Yet behind her commanding presence was a woman who endured deep personal challenges, failed relationships, financial strain, and long-term health struggles that she kept fiercely private. In her final years, Aretha battled pancreatic neuroendocrine cancer, a diagnosis she chose not to publicly disclose. Even as her health deteriorated, she remained dignified and selective about appearances, performing sparingly but powerfully. Her last public performance took place in November 2017, where her voice, though fragile, still carried undeniable soul. On August 16, 2018, Aretha Franklin passed away peacefully at her home in Detroit, surrounded by family. She was 76 years old. The world responded with an outpouring of grief and celebration, recognizing that music had lost not just a singer, but a spiritual leader whose voice articulated generations of struggle and triumph. What makes Aretha Franklin's death tragic is not scandal or chaos, but finality. Her voice, so deeply woven into cultural memory, fell silent. She had given everything to music, often placing her own well-being second to performance and responsibility. Aretha's life was one of strength and sacrifice. Her death closed a monumental chapter in American music, leaving behind a legacy that continues to teach the power of authenticity, dignity, and emotional truth. Naya Rivera. Naya Rivera's death shocked the world not because of controversy, but because of her courage in her final moments. Best known for her role as Santana Lopez on Glee, Naya was a multi-talented actress and singer whose career began in childhood. She grew up in the entertainment industry, navigating fame with professionalism and resilience. By the late 2000s, Naya had stepped back from constant spotlight, focusing on motherhood. Her son became the center of her life, grounding her after years of public pressure. Friends described her as fiercely protective, deeply loving, and committed to giving her child a stable future. On July 8, 2020, Naya and her son rented a boat at Lake Piru in California. When the boat was later found drifting, her son was discovered alone, asleep, and unharmed. After days of searching, Naya Rivera's body was recovered from the lake. Others concluded that Naya drowned after successfully helping her son back onto the boat, using her remaining strength to save him before being overcome by exhaustion. She was 33 years old. What makes Naya Rivera's death especially heartbreaking is its heroism. There was no recklessness, no scandal, only a mother making the ultimate sacrifice. Her final act reflected pure instinct and unconditional love. Naya's passing reframed her legacy. She is remembered not only as a performer, but as a mother who gave her life so her child could live. Her story stands as one of quiet bravery, reminding the world that true heroism often unfolds far from cameras and applause. These legends gave the world timeless music, unforgettable performances, and cultural pride. But at what cost? Behind every tragic death lies a question we still struggle to answer. Does fame protect Black excellence, or does it quietly destroy it? Some say success saved them. Others believe it accelerated their downfall. What do you think? Were these losses the result of personal choices, industry pressure, or a system that consumes its brightest stars? Let us know your honest opinion in the comments below. Your voice matters here. Subscribe to Black Excellence Legends for more untold stories, and let's keep this conversation alive.